Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ask a Muso podcast, brought to you by Beach Services. I'm on location with two lovely individuals here that I remember seeing at a small little venue in Noosa as my first introduction. So I'll let them continue the introduction. I've got JC in the tree over here. Give a bit of an introduction and kick things off for us.
Okay, well, I'll start off since I got the mic. I'm called JC. My nickname is JC, so that's how it kind of came about with the name. It was given to me when I was on tour in Europe when I was 19. And Jesse, you can introduce yourself.
My name is Jesse, but as far as JC and the tree goes, I am the tree portion of that situation, and that's simply just because my last name is Tree. So,
That actually makes sense.
Yeah, so... Yeah, and in high school, of course, nobody called me Jesse. It was Tree because, of course, you would do that.
There's plenty of Jessies, not a lot of trees in high school. So, yes. That's fair. So, well, I'll kick off from there. How long has JC and the Tree been a thing? Tell me sort of the origin stories of that.
I think we've been sort of doing gigs for around 3.5, 4 years now, roughly. And it basically kicked off sort of Jacinta had come back from Melbourne. Yeah, you were living there for a while and we just started hanging out as friends. And then one thing led to another. Then we started dating, and then it was like a year down the track. I had a lot of songs that I'd sort of written because, I used to work a full-time job sort of in a situation where a lot of the time I was on like machines and stuff, and I'd just be...
Need the break.
Yeah, well, it's just a lot of time to think, really, to be honest. Like, a lot of it was, just time to think and all that. And then so I would play music after work because I sort of lived by myself in a unit. And, basically always just played, but I was always too scared to play on stage. Terrified, like shocking stage fright. So I'd never do it. And then, after we had got together for a while, I finally worked up the courage and started showing Jacinta some songs. And she was like, oh, yeah, let's work on some of them. And, it sort of flowed from there.
I think our first gig was not long really before COVID. We did about 3 shows, I think, in 2019, and then, COVID happened, and that obviously paused a few things. But we took that time to then record our first album actually during COVID, which was quite a blessing because it gave us that time and that space to actually do that properly, I think,
Yeah, okay. And was that like a mixture of stuff you've done yourselves, and a mixture of your sort of brainwaves, your original songs, or was it?
Well, a lot of the original songs were sort of like, they were together, but more probably lyrically and stuff like that. And then Jacinta sort of helped, makes them better, makes them something.
Well, I suppose they were written for you to play. They weren't written with any other sort of elements.
I think the first album maybe more so, but the second one I think it's definitely been musically more of a collaborative sort of situation. I like to, as far as the songs that I've written in the album, I like to take time to be alone to write and stuff. So I might just disappear for a couple of days or something, go in the van or whatever, and sort of write and try and get that lyric part and maybe the chords and just a rough structure down. And then there might be other bits violin bits, and we'll build sections,
bring it together, and then say, okay, this is what I have, over to you, and that's we can sort of do it from there.
Yeah, most of the time that's sort of I think how it sort of goes, but there's nothing too fixed about that either, though. I guess it just happens however it happens.
Now, have you guys always been sort of into the same style of music? Is that sort of how that sort of kicked off, or did you just go, this sort of music, this is... I didn't know that you like this, or is that sort of how it happened organically, or did you both know that you like the same sort of stuff?
So backstory on us, I'll just trace back. We were friends as teenagers, and so he introduced me to City and Colour, and we actually met on a car ride to a party, sort of probably a bit drunk one night, and connected in the back seat, on the drive there over music. I learnt classical piano and violin, and he obviously was playing guitar back then. and we sort of got really excited. He wanted to learn the piano, so we agreed we would do some exchange lessons where he taught me guitar and piano. So back then we sort of, we listened to a lot of similar music. You were especially into a bit more of like the rock and the kind of hip hop. We both loved listener, so we were at Big Day Out together at the front moshing. Back in the day, and so. Yeah, so there's been and so I guess folk music, how it's sort of come about, us playing more of that kind of folk style music. Yeah, that's sort of what Jesse, I guess, always wrote. But then there's some like older songs that were more like, there's a song called Raindrops that's on our first album. That one's, people have sort of said, that's like folk metal. So that's the kind of a bit more heavier rocky metal sort of influences.
But just with an orchestration that is typically folky.
Yeah, so you've got violin solo instead of like a crazy guitar solo.
That's cool.
If that makes sense, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just like, so for me, I think that transition came because I did sort of play classical guitar a little bit when I was like, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13, so I started getting a few lessons then. And then sort of in high school ended up in a bit of a band, and then we were sort of listening to sort of like more punk, maybe dabbling into sort of heavier stuff. And I kind of fell in love a little bit with, one of the bands was Alexis on Fire, which is kind of like, screamo sort of thing. But then it had like these really beautiful melodic parts as well, which was Dallas Green. And then I sort of ended up getting into, sort of later on, then, City and Colour sort of came about, and I was like, I love that sort of thing. So then I picked up the acoustic again. It was like, so I think a lot of the very early part of that's how it sort of turned into, maybe, for me anyways, getting into sort of more folky, I guess, if it is folk. I'm not sure if City and Colour's class is folk, but just that melodic
that's
sort of...
That's the thing. It's like you put in like in the Instagram bio for the Joe Punter, there's like folk, indie with gypsy, and there's lots of different themes and stuff like that. But when Aaron and I were at Olay and we were watching you guys for the first time, there was a lot of themes, like you said, with like your metal folk. There was a lot of themes that were just different and unique and super interesting. And I suppose from our point of view, that grabbed our attention. Yeah. And knowing that that's where you just specifically came from, more so it was from the heavier music sort of thing, and then to actually weave that in. Because a lot of times you find that classical music weaves its way into metal stuff because you need to have the scales and the fingering and all those sorts of things, especially on guitar. So there's some really well-accomplished, almost jazz musicians that are playing metal stuff because just the knowledge of the fretboard is what they transfer. But often the inverse is not really true. Someone that did a bit of classical and stuff like that and is also done heavier music and is now bringing that into folk. It's more on the rare side, and I think that's what appealed to us and what grabbed our attention when we saw you guys.
Thank you.
And also covering Killing in the Name of as well was memorable. I think I do have a video of that, and if I do, then it will be currently sitting over the top of us now because that was memorable enough. I was like, this is too good. I got to capture this. You've released a lot of music. Did you produce this all yourselves? Is this all a home STEM project, or have you have a sort of way you like to do your bits and then hand it out to mixing, or what's sort of your process?
I guess I'll answer that because I got the mic. So first album we recorded here on the Sunshine Coast with Paulie B at the studio Yamanui. So that was great, and it was kind of an accidental thing. I was dropping a friend there one time to record, and I just popped my head in. That was like a couple of years before, and I always remembered that looked like a really nice studio, and Paulie was great to work with. So yeah, I guess he was... so it was all recorded there, all mixed there, and then Paul Blakey was the guy who mastered it. So yeah, I guess a professional studio recording for the first album. And then the second one, we happened to meet a guy called Scotty French. You probably heard of him. He's a great muso around the scene. Yeah. And he was playing up at Wintermoon and at the festival we love to play at. And we just got chatting, and it sort of felt really nice to go... sort of went that way with him. So we went for the second album recording down in Gold Coast with Scotty, and he mixed, mastered and all. Oh, well, he didn't master. Paul Blakey did.
But yeah, you found a connection, or you rekindled a connection, and went, I'm going to use you for this. Like, I'm going to keep you in mind next time I want something, or I need something, or we're doing something. I know where to find you, sort of thing. I like that.
Yeah, I think we've been very fortunate with the whole recording process. Like basically we've had no bad experiences really in the studio. It's quite enjoyable to go in, and so we've been very lucky. We've been able to work with really really good people sort of straight off. And there's so many around now too that are great people to work with. So yeah,
I think we are sport for choice, not just for people who know what they're doing and people who are keen to collaborate and stuff like that, which is awesome, but people who have really good spaces, like really awesome spaces, some of them that look like just a house front, but you come in and there's this fantastic treated room and all these instruments and just the attitude I think I felt from doing little bits of studio work here and there, from doing stuff in Melbourne when I was at uni to now, like just the attitude and the vibe is very much like, sweet, so this is clearly very special to you. You just let me know how I can facilitate it. Rather than, all right, here we go. So here's how it's going to work, because that's just not really conducive of a creative environment.
Yeah, and I think that's important for us too. Like in our future endeavours, we want to try and keep that, like go in, work with like a sound engineer and like somebody and go into the studio and work, but sort of not so much have like a producer or somebody there that's like picking apart the songs and being like, no, this can't go there or that. Like I think we like to kind of try and keep control. So yeah, I think
you gotta have the innate structure of what the song is about. The moment you compromise that, well, then you may as well just sort of not bother. If you're not going to sort of keep that harnessing of what you guys enjoy and what it's all about.
Yeah.
What is like what I kind of, it's a very general question, but what is your music sort of about? Like where does that sort of come from?
I don't know. As far lyrically, I guess speaking, like I don't know. I've always found writing like this nice sort of like access point, I guess, to like your subconscious or something. And sometimes I feel like, I'll write a song and then it's almost like a bit of Ghibli Gop or something, like some of them, and you're like, oh, I don't really know what that is. But then like
that come from?
And then as like time goes on, sometimes you're like, oh, that was something, and it almost relates to the future or something. I'm not sure.
The current situation you're in and like, like sometimes like that dream state, it came to me in a dream and stuff like that. It's like, well, obviously dreams often come from places of either foreshadowing or self-reflection. It's the same sort of thing. And like it's essentially your internal narrative. Whether or not you are fully aware of what exactly it is or not, it has to come from you somewhere.
Yeah. So, I think lyrically it's, kind of like that. A bit of mystery, but it's in there somewhere. But it's a nice way to access that part of your brain that maybe you wouldn't normally be in, I guess.
No.
And as far as the music goes, I don't know either. That's really more of a just a question.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard. Where does anything come from, really? But I think, I've been a big part in helping arrange the songs a lot. And I quite often, so when he's gone and have his time writing the lyrics and the beginning of a song, and then he's come, sort of to me, and we're sort of starting to work on it together, then I often hear a lot of, he gets to a point and go, oh, I really think this would work here, and then, well, let's try these chords here, and, so I've been part of a bit of that kind of side of things, which I've always felt, I guess musicians say they just hear things. Like I wrote one song in the first album called Waiting for the Day, and that I was actually just lying in bed and I just heard this piano kind of part and this kind of melody came to me and I just ran over. Luckily the piano was here and I was in that bedroom over there.
Exactly, lucky that,
because sometimes that happens in the middle of the night and we're in a van at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's nothing you can do about it and you've forgotten it in the morning.
That's very true. I had a very good chat with Ali Rowe about the exact same thing. They're saying that sometimes you just have the scratch and it's like, no, I need to do it. Hang on. I'm sorry, I need to write this down right now. Otherwise I'm going to forget it forever. Get the phone out and it's tone deaf. It's 4:15 in the morning, but damn it, it's down.
I did it once and I couldn't make sense of it the next day. I was like, what was I doing? I was sitting on the toilet trying to be quiet and sing this song. It was actually from a dream, that one. Anyway, it's a long story. But
I actually had that last night. Like that was what I was doing last night in bed when I was on my phone. I wasn't just like, sometimes I wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, they'll just be like, like just a little lick or something.
It's there.
Yeah. But I've been listening to a lot of Gregory Alan Isaacoff, I think that's how you pronounce his name. But anyway, he's like just this amazing lyric writer, and somehow if you listen to that a lot before you go to bed, then you wake up and you have these maybe offshoots of that like bouncing around your head and you're like, okay, where's the phone? Like,
well, at least sometimes you can write that down, even if there's no necessarily melodic structure. Whereas if you've got a but you're in the loop trying to them as quiet as possible. Yeah.
I guess I'm fortunate that I don't get the music part so much. It's more just like a line or something. I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Like,
I can use that.
That's an interesting thing to think.
Well, you touched on before, it's much easier when you're at home than it is when you're in a van. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no upright piano staged right. Tell me about your trip. Like you've been traveling, you've been touring, you've been going around. What's that life like? Give us a bit of a rundown on how that's been going.
It's been fantastic. I mean, I guess there was always that kind of small part of you before we did it that kind of was going, oh, we're going to be okay as a couple, or doing this. Is this the right thing?
Drive each other mad.
Yeah, in the small space in the van on the road. But it's actually been almost, I don't know, better for us as a couple, I think, in some ways. There was like an adjustment period at the beginning, just getting used to being in that small space and, getting the kind of gig routine down pat, getting ready in the van, makeup, dressed,
what you need.
Showers. Yeah, I think it's been like interesting because everything just takes a little bit longer because you're always in an area, well, we've quite often, especially this trip, been in areas we don't know. So you have to Google map where's the nearest toilet, or where can we find this, or a shop, and then you have to always do your dishes straight away. You can't put them in a dishwasher or anything like that because you're in a small space.
There's no set and forget,
and you have to put everything away. So cooking and all that kind of stuff, it's nice because it slows you down, I think, and it gives you time to ponder things a bit more as well. But it's been great. We've seen some amazing parts of our country. We're really lucky to be in Australia and have such a fantastic, landscape on our doorstep. So been really blessed.
Okay. Well, where would have to? This is going to be like picking favourite kids. Where would have to be probably the most maybe memorable gig, most interesting place, or something either of late or just in general that you can think of?
Memorable. I can't think of memorable gigs straight off my head, but I'm going to say probably my favourite. I feel like it's the most memorable moment on the tour as well. There was a bit of a lot going on. It was a place called Swanhaven, which is it's hard to remember where we were when.
No, that's
I'm pretty sure it was in the south, not too far south of Sydney, so on the south coast of New South Wales. And that particular day, I was personally freaking out a lot in my head about all the admin that we had to do, because there's a lot you've got to keep up with when you're self-managing, so much. Yeah, it's just a lot involved.
Yeah, so, whether or not you're in a van or not. Yeah. The administration doesn't stop either way.
Yeah, and I think we kept saying to each other, because we were working full-time jobs and gigging before, the 3 years before this, which was quite busy. And so we kept saying, once we're in the van, we'll have time. And so I think there was a bit of things put off till that point. But also there was an expectation that we'd have a lot more time, which is kind of true, but you're also travelling, trying to make the most of where you are. So there's that balance.
Exactly. It's the fact that I suppose one of the reasons maybe why I asked what was a memorable time was because just to sort of remind you guys that you did travel. There was a traveling. It's traveling, and then when you get to the place, then obviously you do your craft. Yeah. But you got to enjoy the journey, but because really, as you said, it's a pretty awesome landscape traveling up even just the east coast of Australia. So you want to utilise and have the benefit of all the bits that aren't the hour set you play, which is either going to be filled with a bit of admin, but also it's just going to be you guys enjoying each other's company, enjoying where the landscape that you're in. So this day I was very anxious and overwhelmed, and then Jessie was picking up on that and was lovely and was all right, let's just pull up here, we will get the admin done, we'll sit down and we'll do it, and let's do it together, and that'll be okay. And we got out and we walked down to the beach. I think we were going to go for a quick swim to wake ourselves up. And then the beach that we stumbled across was just the most picturesque, magical beach, and the day was just fantastic. The water was blue, there was beautiful, perfect surf, and so we were kind of just we can't sit in our van and on our computer with this here. Exactly.
No.
It was completely organic and also completely unreasonable to think I'm going to do work.
But I think it was a turning point mentally for me, and it's actually funny enough talking about that first song I wrote, Waiting for the Day. It was at that point we were sort of going through similar issues, always jobs to do. There's always jobs to do. Yep. And I guess
what can I be doing
the chorus,
right now?
The chorus of that song was basically about not letting the anxious or the sort of worries and the stresses of all the lists you have to do take over your mind. It's just a part of your mind. And so it was actually a reminder of that whole reflection back to that first song on the first album I wrote. And so it was just letting go of all the worries and just enjoying where I was. And so he went surfing, I got the drone out and filmed him, and we got some magnificent shots, and it was a fantastic day. I can send you videos and photos if you want to.
I would love to put them over this. That would be
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
But memorable gig, I don't know. Do you want to?
Well, there's a lot actually. I can't. To be honest, the cool thing is that I can't think of one that was bad, which is nice. I can't think of one that was terrible, which I thought when we were leaving. There's going to be a few.
There's going to be a doozy. There's
going to be a few rough ones. But no, it was actually really quite chill, like nice. Every venue was really nice, and all the people were very lovely to us. I enjoyed the last gig we did actually in Gold Coast. It was a little house concert we did, and all the sort of people there knew our songs and were like singing them back, which was really cool. It was kind of like the first time that's happened, and I was like, wow, this is cool. So
especially because it's so intimate, so you're people sitting this close to you singing back your lyrics, which are your stories, and that's pretty special.
Yeah, so that was really nice. I would say that was probably a highlight one at very least. And I think other than that, like as in general being on the road, another cool thing we've been doing is like looking out for wildlife and stuff like that and filming. Like in our spare time, we like to like surf and actually film wildlife and that sort of thing. So we've seen a lot of really cool Australian native animals, which has been amazing, like echidnas, and we actually saw a shark off this headland. Like I was just standing at this headland and looking way out into the ocean. I just saw this massive like splash, and I was like, "Whoa, what was that?" Like it wasn't like a whale one. It was like in David Attenborough and stuff, and you see these sharks. Just like,
it's like
smash,
this
like
that
carcass.
one wasn't for like relaxation. That one was for business. That splash was for business.
Yeah. So I saw this business splash. And I was like, whoa, what's that? So we ended up getting our little drone thing again, and we flew it out.
Oh, that's
and we
such
ended
a cool
up
tool
seeing
to have.
this massive like shark was just cruising along, which was really cool. We didn't get to see any more like attacks on the surface or anything, but yeah, it was quite cool. But there's been lots of moments. Yeah, we've seen seals, we've seen them fight, we've seen kangaroo. We basically just
watching some of the most aggressive Australian wildlife you can possibly find.
Like all these fights in one day. We saw like a big kangaroo fight, and it was kangaroo fight, and also earlier that day a seal fight as well, which we filmed both. It was like, this is the day of fights.
Well, to wrap up, let everyone know where the lovely people can find you and can spin the albums and find you whilst you're finishing off touring and finishing off more locally around home. Tell everyone where they can find you.
So I guess we've got a website, which is probably a great start. It's just www.jcandthetree.com. And then we're obviously on social media, so Instagram, Facebook. We don't have TikTok. I hope that's all right with everyone.
That's just one less logo for me to put in when I edit this. So in the scheme of things, I'm thanking you.
I feel like there's enough work with Facebook and Instagram and email.
Plenty.
Sure if I'm willing to take on that platform yet.
No, plenty to do. But
yeah, we're around the Sunshine Coast for the next 2 weeks as of today. So we'll be here till nearly the end of April, and then we're up near Mackay at a beautiful festival called Winter Moon. We're actually playing with a full band. So we've got Scotty, actually the two gentlemen that we said talked about earlier that we recorded our first and second album with. So Scotty French is going to be on drums, and we've got Paulie B on bass, which is very exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then we're continuing up north to Cairns, and we're sort of still finalising some dates, but then we're playing at Townsville Folk Festival in mid-June, which is very exciting.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's our next sort of part of the, I guess, Australian tour for a Changing Tides release.
That's awesome.
And but all that music is on Spotify, Apple Music, all that jazz.
Yeah, awesome.
And then on the website you can find, we've got vinyls pressed for both albums.
That's
we've also got USBs and then of course CDs, but a lot of people don't have CD players anymore.
I know.
So
it's like,
we've gone old
couldn't
school.
put one in my car.
Yeah.
No matter how much I like you, couldn't put one in the car to listen to. So I get that.
So we decided to go old school, new school, and then middle school with the CDs.
Yep.
USB and vinyl. I don't know.
You got to do it. If you're going to do it, you got to do it.
And actually today we had my lovely stepsister Persia. She is behind the artwork of both our albums, which I'm very proud of. I think that it's stunning artwork. So we've got both those artworks on different T-shirts and stuff like that. A lot of people seem to quite like the art there. So
yes,
if you
absolutely.
want to support us by buying merch, that all helps.
Anyone who's watched this, if I've watched either just this episode or the whole season this far through, they'll know that merch is the best way to support artists. So please do that. And I don't take a cut like venues, I promise. So make sure you guys everyone checks out what JC and the Tree got going on. Because I promise that whatever you've heard before, you haven't heard these guys. So it's very exciting, and it's just I get excited about it because I just get to promote homegrown like talent for free. So for me, it's a bonus for me because I know that you're only from my backyard. And as I was commenting on before we went on air today, was just how lovely it is just to drive out here to the hinterland areas and stuff, and just to hang out in this very special place that we call home. So thanks for having a chat, and I've had an absolute ball.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having a chat to us. It's been really nice.
Awesome.
And thank you for doing these things like podcasts and stuff like that, and getting people's music out there. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, it's
thank you.
awesome. I enjoy that. I get to have a conversation with people like you, and the people at home get to enjoy finding out more about potentially their next favorite artist. So the pleasure is all mine. So until next time, guys. Every Tuesday, 9 a.m. on my YouTube. The season's wrapping up, but I've had an absolute ball, and I hope you guys will do as you make your way through. So 9 a.m. every Tuesday, and until next time, I'll see you later.